Okay, hope everybody is good. I'm recording this after we had major technical problems today with the Black Studies course. We did supposed to run the free taster session, and we get into the building, and someone's broken in and stolen the projector. So we didn't have a projector. That was the first problem. Then we started to live stream everything. Firstly, the camera wasn't connected. Then it finally connected, and the internet went off, and then just a lot of problems. So one of the reasons we ran the event, we did the free taster session, was so that we could work out the kinks, right, while it's free, while no one's getting no refunds. So we have now worked this all out practically. For the actual, we are going to do the 6-week course starting March the 6th. That's actually going to be on Zoom, not YouTube. So much clearer in some ways. We're going to swear out all the internet stuff, and it will be running fine for the so if you are doing it online, please don't worry. We will be running it online and recording at the same time and putting it on Zoom. You will also be able, we'll record the sessions so that you can also get the recordings for up to a week after every week. You also get slides sent to you, etc., etc. So apologies, I know people were waiting for the live stream, and there's a lot of people logged on, and it just didn't work. So because of that, I've come home late at night, in the middle of the night now, and said, look, I'll run the session now, record it here, put this up on YouTube so you can get the free taster session still. 6th of March, please do sign up for the course. And again, apologies to anybody who was on the live stream. You know, the day happened, lots of, these things happen, right? Hence why we did the taster. So I'm going to get into it. Free taster session for Black Studies 101. So hopefully the technology in my house works. It does seem to be so far. So like I said, we have this 6-week course. It will start Thursday the 6th of March. It will be on live on, not on YouTube, sorry, it'll be on Zoom, and we'll also be in the building. Like I said, we're going to record those on Zoom, and we'll share for up to a week. So you'll be able to watch. If you can't watch it live, you can watch it afterwards. There is a major discount for members of Harambee OBU. One of the things we're trying to do is really encourage people to join the organization, and I will talk about the organization a bit. So there's big discounts for £100 for non-members, £25 for members for the whole course. We also have a £150 donation rate if you are getting someone to pay for it, company training, or just have some money and want to put in £150 for the course, then please do that. All details are at www.blackunity.org.uk/Black Studies, so you can sign up. For all of that. I should also say, open to people overseas. There's no need to pick up. I know on some of the sum up, when you go to click the link, there had been something about delivery. There's actually nothing to deliver. Everything will be delivered to you online, so please don't worry. If you do want to do the course, please sign up if you're overseas. And yes, rest assured, we have worked out the technological kinks, and you will get your course. So here we go into the introduction. And all the money for this goes to Harambee Organisation of Black Unity. One of the benefits, so you'll know I am Professor of Black Studies at Birmingham City University, and we no longer teach undergraduate Black Studies course, which has opened up a space to run some of that stuff in community, online and stuff. And actually, there's a benefit to that. One, wider audience, but two, also we can support organisation. So this is all being run through Harambee Organisation of Black Unity that is based in Birmingham, and we have the Marcus Garvey Centre. Nicole Andrews Community Library is in there as well, and I'll talk about some of that. Harambee OBU is based on Malcolm X's Organisation of Afro-American Unity. It would have been Malcolm's 100th birthday this year in May. I have a book coming out, which I will plug many, many a time. And Malcolm started the Organisation of Afro-American Unity in 1964, left a whole political program. Anybody that tells you that Malcolm did not have a political program is lying to you, because there is the OAAU, and we basically picked this up in 2013, actually, as an Organisation of Black Unity, and then later merged with the Harambee Organisation, which is a long-standing organisation in Birmingham, which was originally started by my father before he went away from it and then came back. And so the motto has two key principles. One, Garveyite, the greatest weapon used against a Negro is disorganization. And so the purpose of the organization really is to bring people together, organize people together collectively across Africa and also the diaspora. This is why one of the big things that we're doing is, and I actually don't have a slide about this, but very much should do, is we are having the Convention for African People, which will be in Gambia next year, so April 2026. But online, we are doing a Convention for African People online in May 17th, 18th. That will be to bring people together, bring organizations together to plan for Gambia 2026. And will also be to celebrate Malcolm's 100th birthday, which is May 19th. So we're organizing a Convention for African People online for May this year in Gambia 2026. And the whole point is to bring together the diaspora, bring together all of those in the diaspora. Key to this is membership. It's a membership organization. So you join the organization. Joining is like paying your tax. And that's how we get money, right? That's how we are independent. So doing things like this cause, we raise money independently. Having people join the organization, we raise money independently. That allows us to do the things that we need to do, say the things we need to say, without there being any censorship. So please do join. It's all the details are on www.blackunity.org.uk, open to all Black people around the world. We're also starting the Black United Front, which will be a directory of Black organizations. So please do look out for all of those things. That's the Harambee Organization of Black Unity. We have, as I said before, Nicole Andrews Community Library. It's a reference library in Birmingham. We have Children's Book Exchange, so you can swap books. We also do events. There's a book club every month. The next book club is Friday the 28th of February. And doing bell hooks is all about love, I believe. So if you are in Birmingham and want to come to the book club, email info@blackunity.org.uk for any more information. We also always take donations of Black books for the library. Nicole Andrews was my late wife who died from cancer about 3 years ago now. Died from cancer 3 years ago now. And we set up the library in her honor. We also have Make It Plain. Make It Plain. At the top of Make It Plain, you can also see Convention for African People, Cap 25. We have the podcast. We have different articles, etc. This is the place where you get radical thought for Black radical thought. If you want to write, please do. Write for Make It Plain, please do. MIP@blackunity.org.uk, MIP@blackunity.org.uk. And we have Harambee House, which is a hostel founded in the 70s. Still runs as a hostel in Birmingham. And again, serving community. This is kind of what the organization does. So any money and the money from the course all goes to Harambee Organization of Black Unity. And those are the activities which we are involved in. So please do support. This is what Black Studies is about. So into it, I want to go for a little bit about what is Black Studies? What is it? What does it mean? What does it do? What's the point of it? And really, for Black Studies, there are two key elements, and these two key elements are really important. When we were in the session today, in person, we had a lot. I asked the question, "What is Black Studies?" And a lot of the things that came back were very much about history. History is definitely history. History is important, massively important. Any Black person who's studying any topic really has to become a historian, because so little of our stuff is written down. So little of us have had access to higher education, to academia, to research, that we just don't have as much written stuff, right? So, for example, when I did my first book, Resisting Racism on the Black Supplementary School Movement, or Saturday schools, there really was no book about Saturday schools. I had to go and write the history of Saturday school, because that's what we do. Unless somebody not have historical training. In my background, academically, is sociology, psychology, politics. This is kind of my area. And Black Studies has historical elements, but it isn't Black history, right? It's broader than Black history. And so what we study is the contributions, experiences, and perspectives of Africa and the African diaspora. Black people, basically. It's really important that it is about Black people, right? We're centered. If you look at the Eurocentric curriculum, it centers white people. You will learn things. I have people ask me all the time, what if there was a degree in white studies? I promise you there's many, many, many degrees in white studies. They're called psychology, they're called history, they're called sociology. That's what they be, right? Even when they address Black people, they address Black people from that colonial Eurocentric lens, right? So centering Black people is really important. But, and this is a big but, that's not enough to be Black Studies. Black Studies has to have this second element. That's what Robert Staples called in the 70s the science of liberation, right? Science of liberation. That is the reason we do this. The point of study is to change things, right? That's the purpose of study. We're not just studying black people to study black people. That's what white people, that's colonialism, right? That's area studies. That's go into the jungle and study the savages. No, we're studying black people because we want to make things better. We know that the world is problematic. We know that racism exists, and the whole purpose of what we're trying to do is to alleviate those conditions, right? It's directly connected to improving the conditions in black community. It's really, really, really important point that I think often gets lost now, to be honest, when we think about black studies, and black thought, and the point of academia, and the point of this stuff is that we do get, sometimes we can get trapped in that way of thinking, which is, well, just study for the sake of studying. That's not what we do in black studies. Never has been, hopefully never will be. This is Nathan Hare, who founded one of the first black studies programs in America. So black studies in Europe is very infancy. Black studies in Britain we had one black studies degree, undergraduate degree at BCU that has now been closed. We still have the masters, so we do have a black studies masters, which we're revalidating, black studies in global justice, which I'd recommend people come along and study. And Nathan here, this is San Francisco State College. This is 69, I believe. Again, I'm not a historian, so don't always check me for dates, because I tell you a bit of history, but it's going to give you the themes, maybe not necessarily always the dates. But I'm pretty sure 69 they had a 4-month-long strike. They said, look, we're demanding to have black studies. It was this huge demand, it wasn't just given, it wasn't something that just happened. And Hare said at the time, look, black education must be education. Hare said at the time, this is actually Stokely Carmichael in the picture, addressing the rally. Stokely Carmichael later became Kwame Ture, addressing the rally, one of the rallies at San Francisco State, which again shows you those connections to community, right? Black Panther Party, radicals like Kwame were there, really pushing, this was part of Black Power, part of Black Studies, part of Black education movement. And so Hare said, black education must be education for liberation, or at least for change. All courses, whether history, literature, or mathematics, will be taught from a revolutionary ideology or perspective. Black education will become the instrument for change. That's important, right? We say black studies is not just history, mathematics, history, literature. It's a different lens focus of doing things. Black and change. Black education would become an instrument, the instrument for change, right? And that ties into the work that Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael was doing. It ties into the work of the Black Panther Party. It ties into the Black Power movement, right? Because you have that Black Power movement, because you have that strong mobilization in community, that bleeds into campus, right? So this also important. Another term that Hare uses a lot is community component. Is to wed the community to university, right? Wed the community to universities, and this is really also important context where Black Studies comes from in America. In America, Black Studies starts in the 60s, right? But heavily linked to those mobilizations of the Black freedom movement more generally, right? And what's happening is Black students are going into historically white universities. It's not so. In the US, you have historically Black colleges, your Morehouses, your Spelmans, those kind of places. And they actually haven't had, and most of them still do not have Black Studies programs, right? Those historically have been a bit more conservative, set up white philanthropists, set up to get people into jobs, so more technical training places, have been more, not always, like Morehouse to some extent has been more radical, Howard to some extent, but generally speaking, you would say HBCUs, historically Black colleges, universities, just haven't had that radicality to them, right? And so when Black Studies emerged, it emerged in predominantly white universities. This is when Black students went into these predominantly white universities in the 60s, and they found, look, what is this? This is so distinct, so separate, so far from our experience. There's a movie online called Agents of Change about Black Studies in America, and the students who went to these unis were saying, look, we were going into class and the lecturer was saying Africa has no history, no civilization. Black women are prostitutes because they're so because they like to sleep around, etc., promiscuous, etc., etc. One woman complained because she was straightening her hair, and then somebody called security on her because they thought she was smoking weed. Right? That was how hostile these places were. And so that's the backdrop to Black Studies, right? And people going into these places which are totally cut off from Black communities, have nothing to do with Black community, and then saying, look, we need to bring the Blackness in, right? Bring the Blackness into the community, bring the Blackness into the university, keep that connection, keep that connection, and make experience in these places useful to tie back into what we're doing in the community. Now, importantly, Hare writes this in 70, and he's already saying that's not what's happening. He's already seeing that Black people are getting in, getting jobs, getting black faculty, getting jobs, getting comfortable. People are getting comfortable in the house, but aren't actually doing the work to connect it back to community. Right? That urgency, that community component, that science of liberation really does start to dissipate very quickly in the movement, right? Well, and aside, that is the context to Black Studies in America. So Black Studies very much was the battle for Black Studies. They call it the battle for Black Studies because it was a battle. 4-month-long strike in San Francisco State College. This is Willis Strait Hall at Cornell University. And students there occupied, Willis Strait Hall is like the student union building. They occupied the building and they didn't go in armed. They actually went in not unarmed, like just occupied the building. But they started getting threats from KKK, started getting threats from racists, so they smuggled guns into the building and refused to take them out, refused to come out without the guns because they were afraid of being attacked. So this picture gets snapped there with the students literally marching out there, guns and ammo, and it's all very masculine and it's all very bombastic. But it just shows you this was a battle, right? Like it had to be won. This wasn't something that we just given up. It wasn't something that the university was just going to say, yeah, go ahead. And actually, as you're seeing now in America, there's just backlash against Black Studies, African American Studies, which kind of comes after Black Studies. There's a big backlash. Universities dropping it. Trump's coming in saying, no, you can't do this. States are banning things, banning books, banning courses, banning African American Studies courses in schools, AP advanced placement courses, they call them, in schools. So there's really been this big pushback. It's never really been comfortable. It's never really sat comfortably within the university because it is something that is different, right? That is distinctive. And so that's really the context. And in the UK, you have the same context in the UK. It's just later on. And so, if you've heard me talk before, podcasts, etc., read any of my books, you will have known that this is one I think talk about in a lot. Difference between America and Britain, or Europe, America and Europe really, is the main difference with us is that we in Europe managed its Black people and its empire by remote control, right? Black people are in the Caribbean, Black people are in Africa. We're not in England. Like England doesn't actually really have racist laws, right? Because we didn't need racist laws because there's none of us here. There were some of us. Like, I must say there was none of us here. There were definitely some Black people in the UK for centuries. But in terms of big numbers, we just weren't here. So at the height of the slave trade, for example, when Britain is the premier slave trading nation in the world, slavery is actually illegal in England. Like it's illegal, it's a crime, right? They said it was illegal. There's no legal basis for slavery in England. So when people were bringing, there's a case, Somerset case, James Somerset, again, don't ask me the year, it was 1780 something. A slave owner, slave owners would do this. They would bring over their enslaved, like their servants and that, into England. But if you could run away, so James Somerset ran away and he appealed, like Granville Sharp, abolitionist, said, look, let's go to the court. There's no slavery in England. Appealed to the court, and the court said, yeah, you're free. There's no slavery. Slavery's not legal in England, so you were free, right? And didn't never got sent back, so you're actually free. This did not stop them from bringing their enslaved, and slavery really was legal, effectively. If you couldn't escape, you weren't going nowhere. No one was ever knocking on someone's door and freeing a slave in England. But that shows you what it is. This schizophrenia that Britain and Europe had. No racist laws in England, but we're happy to kill, maim, enslave everybody outside, right, in the empire. And so that's what really. That demographic thing means that when slavery ends, there's just not that many people here still. Slavery in the British Empire ends in 1838, not 1834, 1838. 1834 is when the law is passed that gives apprenticeship, which an apprenticeship meant that we had to work 75% of our time for 4 years on the plantations for free so that we could learn how to be free. That's psychosis. Anyway, 1838 is when slavery is formally abolished in the British Empire. But at that point, it's not like in America. So in America, when slavery is abolished, they're all there. That's why you have a racist constitution in America. That's why you have 3/5 of a human being. The US Constitution says that we are 3/5 of a human being, written down in the thing, because we're there and they're terrified of it, right? Jim Crow segregation, we're there in huge numbers, so they're terrified of it. So you racial covenants and things, segregate, everything gets drawn out very clearly. We don't like you. You need to be kept back. Whereas in England, in Europe more generally, the real racist laws is immigration law. Keep Britain white. Keep them out. We're not here. You don't have to make laws. So it's not really, if you go through Britain's legislation, you won't find really many laws which are directly, openly racist like you have in America. Which is why Britain and Europe like to say we're not really racist. Look, we didn't have any racist laws. The difference is there were no laws against racism. So when we did start to move in after the Second World War, we experienced lots of racism. And there was nothing that we could do because there weren't no laws, right? And so in the UK, a lot of we're petitioning for laws. Racial Relations Act 65, Racial Relations Act 68, 70, because we need laws to protect us, right? So you don't have any racist laws, but you have anti-racist laws, which tells you that racism is still there. And actually in Europe, you find the same pattern, the same things happen, whether there's laws or not. So, but anyway, that's the difference. The difference also exists in terms of higher education. So, demographically, then, massive ocean between Caribbean slave plantations, and the Caribbean is the American South for Britain. That's what it is. Slave plantations, people were free, but whereas in the South you could get the train, you could run, you could walk if you could walk far enough, you could get away from the South. In the Caribbean, you stop 1838, you ain't get away. How you get into England, right? So after the Second World War, technology changed. You can get a boat in a few weeks. You can plane. Actually, most people flew in and get boats. There's ways to travel, and so people start coming, right? It's like, yo, we're in England, and remember, the empire means that you're actually really in Britain. When you're in Jamaica, you're really in Britain. When you're in Nigeria, you're really in Britain. And so what happens is people start to come, and when people start to come, it's not until after the Second World War, 48 is Windrush, but it's really 50s, 60s, and you don't really get large numbers of black children in the UK until the 60s. So it's really the 60s where you get children. That's where you get lots of educational mobilizations, etc. And it's not really till the 80s you have lots of like adult, like late teen adults, like young adults who would go to university. So really, up until like 1992, that's the key year in British universities. 1992, there really aren't that many black students on campuses at all. Now there's only 100 and odd, about 150. I want to say about 150 higher education institutions in the UK. There were far less before 1992. In 1992, they decide they want to open up higher education to poor people, to black people, more women, etc. So what they do is you have these elite top universities, which are still elite, Oxford, Cambridge, the red brick, we call them red brick universities. They're very white. And so what they do when they want to open up universities, they don't open up universities to them uni. They just create a whole raft of new universities. My university, BCU, used to be a polytechnic, which is like just a school, a secondary school, high school. That gets turned into a university. Lots of things become new universities, and that's where the diversity goes, right? So when this happens in 1992, there's this massive gap between post-92 diverse universities, elite universities pre-92, very, very white. Those are the top universities, and we go into the not top universities. And this is still the case today, right? Black students are overrepresented in higher education, but massively overrepresented in the post-92 universities, which are also not coincidentally likely to be at the bottom of the league table of universities, right? Not a coincidence. This is what racism looks like. And the reason that they opened up higher education, it weren't just about like what unemployment numbers, keep that down, because if you're a student that can push some of the youth unemployment numbers down. But really it's because in the 80s we rebelled, we were in the street. Right, rebellions in Brixton, 81, rebellions across the country in 81, rebellions 85, Handsworth, etc. 90s is rebellions. There's proper like urban rebellions on the street. There's real discontent. And so opening up higher education became a way to pacify us. Not just us, also poor white people too, but to pacify us. Give us a stake in it. Make us think we could be part of this wicked system. And that's the purpose of it, right? So actually one of the weeks I'm going to talk about, one of the weeks we're going to do for the course is the crisis of the Negro intellectual. And it really is talking about that, right? I know that one of my roles is as professor. And I always say professor for me is like chief constable, or actually more accurately, slave preacher. One of my roles is to pacify Negro, right? You come in, you get your debt, you get your degree, go and get some graduate job, you pacify it. You're not revolutionary. That's what we do. right? So a question we'll ask in that, I think it's week 2 of the course, is, to what extent does that, can you square that circle? Can you be radical in academia, given what academia is, right? And so, if you think about that check, so 1992, universities open up, but new universities, we go to the not elite universities. It's only really in the last 10, 15 years or so, there's been more of a critical mass of black students in the top elite white universities. So, for example, when I was going to university all those years ago, there were more black students in London Met, which is one of the bottom universities. And when I say, look, this league table don't mean the universities are bad. My university is not a bad university. It's just at the bottom of the league table because the metrics for league tables are terribly, terribly racist, right? But London Met, more black students in London Met than there were in the whole entire Russell Group, which is like 20 universities, in the whole entire Russell Group, right? That's how bad it was. So over the last 20 years, it's got a bit better, and there's been more students, more collection of students in these elite universities. And this is where you've got to start to see exactly the same way in the UK, you see that pushback. And you saw in the US, that pushback. Black students going into these white places going, what the hell is this? This is why in 2015 you get Why is my curriculum white? I think it's Leeds, UCL, University College London, these deeply old established unions. Decolonized education, Rose must fall. Cecil Rose statue of Cecil Rose, one of the worst people in history, who has a whole country named after him, Rhodesia. That was Oxford University had a Rose Must Fall campaign. It's these really white places where the students are there going, what the hell is this? Because you can really feel it. You come to BCU, it's no better. Don't get it twisted. It's no better whatsoever. It's terrible in terms of institutional racism, but it don't look that bad. It don't feel that bad. You go Oxford. I got Oxford, Cambridge. I like, wow, it just looks racist. You just feel like you walk into UCL, it just feels racist. And you walk in like, damn, damn. That's how it is. You go Oxford, it's just dead white men just littered across the wall. Like, you don't know, like, you're not supposed to be here, right? Like, you walk on campus, it's like, whether you just feel like, boy, that's what it's like. You don't get that when you come to the post 92. Post 92 is just like a new building with no soul. But in those old places, you can feel it, right? You can feel the doneness of it. I went to Oxford, people talking about Rhodesia. If someone actually said Rhodesia like it's a place, Rhodesia has been Zimbabwe since 1980. Anyway, so you feel it, and because you feel it, people resist and they push back, and you have the same demands: decolonize. Why is my curriculum white? Decolonize. It actually opens up the place for things like Black Studies, right? For things like different things, right? So Black Studies is 2017 because it's after this moment where there's a push. There's a push, right? There's a push on trying to change things very similarly to there was in America. Not exactly the same because America is more grassroots, on the ground led that pushed into the campus, where this is more campus led, rather than the other way around. Just a quick aside to go back to those league tables, because somebody did ask me this today about why are the league tables racist? Like, what's racist about them? And it's all about how things are measured, right? So if you have students who have A's, lots of A's when they come in, that's going to be good for you in how you go up the league table. If you have students who get decent jobs and good jobs after they leave, that's going to be good for you on your league tables. If you get students who get good degrees, that's going to be good for you on your league tables. And what do we know about for all those metrics? Entry level in racism in schools means that we're less likely to get those top grades. So we're coming in with lower qualifications. So if you've got black students, they're going to tend to, not completely, have lower qualifications coming in. And exit. What do we find? Black students much less likely to get good jobs when they leave university, right? And that's actually partly because we tend to go to these universities which aren't quite as prestigious and don't have the same credence, credibility, whatever in the job market. But that's just racism, right? Straight up and down. And then the third thing is there's this massive attainment gap between black and not white and non-white students. Like, black students do worse than other students, but if you're not white, you are significantly less likely to get a good degree in the United Kingdom. Doesn't matter what university you go to, it doesn't matter what course. That is a genuine feature of higher education, right? So one of the best way to move up the league table would be to, if you have, like, BCU has lots and lots of black and brown students, would be to get more white students because that demographic shift is going to mean you go up the league table. And the same in the United States, actually, the way they measure league tables. There's a podcast which I can't quite come to recommend, Revisionist History by Malcolm Gladwell, which has some really good episodes, but Malcolm Gladwell's politics are also really, really bad in general. You can tell that through many of the podcasts. So, but on Revisionist History, he does a special on higher education and looks at the rankings and goes to a historically black college I'm sure it's in New Orleans. And it escapes me the name of the college. But he gets people to run the numbers, say, run the numbers. What's the best way for this uni to go up the league tables? And it's just like in the UK, the same answer was get more white students. That will make you go up the league table. Whole system's racist, the whole system's rigged. Do not be surprised. But anyway, as I said before, similar context to America. Later on, because of demographic shifts, we have this moment to say we need to do things differently. This actually wasn't how we got Black Studies at BCU. It wasn't student-led. It was actually us-led. In terms of teaching, lecturers led. And it wasn't this massive pressure to do it, and it wasn't this big commitment from the university to do Black Studies. It was really about money, actually. So, dangers of neoliberalism, I have written about this. Dangers of neoliberalism are that, when the government in the UK was paying most of the fee, so the government was paying, you used to pay 100% of the fee. Well, there wasn't a fee, the university, they just paid per student. Then when I went to uni, you had to pay a little bit. Then it became a bit more, and now it's the full whack. But when the government was paying for the majority of the fee, there was a cap on student numbers, so we could never have got Black Studies because I can't go to the uni and say, well, look, I need some students. Can we get them from law or criminology or something else? Right? And they say no, never gonna happen. But when the students started paying full fees, the cap came off. You can recruit whatever you like. The reason the university backed it is because it was money. It was like, yo, we got this. No one else can do it. We got all these black members there. Totally unique. Only first of its kind. Only one in Europe. They were like, yeah, that's money. So don't be surprised they cut the course when we have issues recruiting, because it wasn't about some big commitment to Black Studies. Isn't that a good idea? Shouldn't we have this on campus? It's just about money. Straight up and down about money. So when you're not bringing enough money, the thing gets cut. Not a commitment to the thing. That's just real talk. For being honest, that's just completely and utterly real talk about what the university is now. It's the business, straight up and down business, and nothing else. Right? If you can make a business case of the thing, you're gonna be fine. You can't make a business case, the political case, the moral case, don't mean a thing. Yeah, believe that. It doesn't mean a thing. Anyway, so that was how Black Studies came into universities. But I want to stress, and I really do want to stress this: Black Studies is not academic. It's not primarily academic. The root of it isn't academic, and it doesn't need academia to flourish. So this is why I say, even though you didn't see me make no big, when the undergraduate course was cancelled, and we still have the masters, we do still have a masters. I would recommend Common Study Black Studies Masters at BC. When the undergraduate course got cut, I wasn't even. It was a lot of work. It was sad. It's a missed opportunity. I think it's a mistake. Well, you ain't hear me bang on about it too much, right? I say that's what needs to be said. Then we just go and do it in community. Right? Black Studies has always been community. Black Studies don't need the university to be. Black Studies it came from without the university and should remain firmly rooted without outside the university. And then if we bring it in, that's good. If we can do that, that's fine. But the root of it has to be community. So I'm actually happy to teach community. Happy to be out there in community teaching, because that's where you get the biggest impact. So this is a picture of books from my. I was lucky because I grew up in British Black Power, in the shadow of British Black Power, I would say. Both of my parents, Marcus Garvey and Kehinde Andrews, heavily involved in the British Black Power movement in the UK, and the British Black Power movement was about education. Fundamentally, primarily, how do we have a different kind of education? How do we have how do we center blackness? How do we understand ourselves? You got to imagine, every one of these books you can see on the screen, you put that into an online retailer, you're going to get that book tomorrow. Come in your house tomorrow. Back in the day, my mum was born my mum was born 48. White mother who volunteered at a club where Kwame, she met in Nkrumah, she met Mugabe, she met all the revolutionaries, and a black Caribbean father. 48 in Britain. There ain't no black books. Nothing at all. Nothing. You can get no books, right? My dad came over in 1960. No black books, right? So they had to go and really curate this reading list, right? My dad's talked about going up to the hood in LA, 22 flights of stairs to go get 6 books in, come back and bring to Birmingham so they can come and study. Right? They started bookshops. We used to have in Harambee OBU, we used to have Harriet Tubman bookshop, which unfortunately closed. New Beacon Books. I strongly recommend you go to New Beacon Books in London if you're ever in London. Oldest black bookshop in the UK. That's what Black Power was. How do we curate, bring in this knowledge and stuff? I grew up. You can't. The bookcase. Some of them books are there. Now, this was actually I took out these books because we were doing a documentary on the British Black Panther Party, and the audio producer, the radio producer was like, yes, we need to flick through the books. I was like, can I just get one book? No, bring some books we can flick through, we can really hear the books. Like, I don't think there's difference. I don't think there's difference between revolutionary suicide and just the dictionary when you're flicking through the book. But anyway, we wanted to make it authentic. And I went through some of these with my mum. And so, I'm on my bookshelf. You've got Garvey, you've got who we got here, the Panthers, we got Nkrumah. Not that many black women. I mean, this is one of the problems historically. I don't think there's really any black women in this pile. Something that has been addressed actually, and one of the benefits of black studies actually has been really, really good work from black scholarship, black female scholarship. So hopefully that's being addressed now. People's work like Revolution Has Come by Robin Spencer. You've got people's work like Kehinde Martin Taylor. Actually, one of the best books I've read for ages. That's amazing business scholarship. Race for Profit by Kehinde Martin Taylor. You've got people like Patricia Collins, Kimberly Crenshaw. There's lots of books being published now. Back in the day, not so much. But I grew up lucky enough to have these around me, so I'm growing up reading these things, right? Reading this stuff. But that's why I'm here. Like with no bones about it. Without this collection of books, and it was more than this. It's just a selection I picked up shelves. But without that wealth of black books, I'm just not here. It was Stokely Speaks from Black Power to Pan-Africanism that really opened my eyes when I was 14, 15, I think. And then Malcolm, and then Panthers, Claudia Jones. But that's why I'm here, right? Because I grew up in that shadow, right? And that is the legacy. That's what we're trying. That's what we're really trying to bring in to university to make that make sense, right? To square that circle. It isn't academic, right? There are some old black academics like Du Bois, but what we tend to do with that is we tend to because Du Bois is around early, then he becomes this. Everybody's Du Bois. Yeah, Du Bois is fine. Like, don't get me wrong, Du Bois is fine, but there's other stuff, right? Lots of it is not academic. When you go through these books I'm showing you here, I don't think any of them are academic. It will be classically what you call academic, right? But they're actually also why they're really, 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 really powerful, right? That's why they really, 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 really work, because they're not academic, right? Because they're not academic. It's why they're so powerful. Because they're rooted in community. They're political books. They're activism. They're connected, right? We're going to talk about in week 2, Crisis of Negro Intellectual, that problem of academia, what that does, how that separates you out, right? And these books don't do that. I love Malcolm. I got a Malcolm book coming out soon in May, and it's all about Malcolm. Malcolm is Malcolm because he's not academic. Malcolm is Malcolm because he's in the street. He's doing the work, and because he's doing the work, he can understand better what's happening, right? So this is a rich tradition of history and activism and understanding that we have to draw on, right? And Black Studies is not academic. Predominantly never has been, never will be. Other thing we had, this is Birmingham, this picture of Birmingham, 1977, African Liberation Day. Massive event in Handsworth Park in Birmingham. This is one event of British Black Power where one of the benefits, I guess, of being in the empire, being in Britain. Britain is the middle of the largest empire. You've got everybody came through Britain. 60s, you had people like Stokely, Kwame Ture came through. You had Amilcar Cabral from Guinea came through. You had Chernat Tepo was in bloody Handsworth, a Zimbabwean revolutionary who got killed just after he was in Handsworth, actually, right, in the 70s. You had bare people just come through. Everybody came through. And we used these events to learn, to listen, to galvanize, to build our bases, right? The building that we did the talk, we had to do the whole host everything in Marcus Garvey Nursery. That was the site for some of this stuff. Harambee organization, things like African Caribbean Self-Help Organization, which was in Birmingham before Harambee. That started with people just bought books, man. They just got black books, and we're like, yeah, let's read this, and let's learn, let's do the study cycle, let's study cycle, let's build our knowledge, and then we get the speakers, and then we're reading all the pamphlets and the letters and the this and that, and that hub. That was how do we understand differently, or how do we understand ourselves outside that how do we understand ourselves outside of the things that we're being given, that's being imposed and being put upon us, right? That's Black Studies. Like, this is Black Studies. This is the power of it. This is the meat of it. And this is why it don't always fit in university, right? Because it don't come from there. It's not supposed to. Like, in some ways, you're trying to put this into university, you're trying to put oil into water. Two things can't mix, right? Two things can't mix sometimes, and that's okay. That's okay. I always say Black Studies in uni is an experiment, because I understand what the university is and what it isn't meant to do, right? Other thing with before I comment to this, actually no, let me hear. Other thing with that, with Black Studies and thinking about how we actually created knowledge, right? So this is How the West Indian Child Was Made Educationally Subnormal in the British School System. Absolute classic, best book about racism education in the UK. Written by Bernard Cord. Bernard Cord went on to go to prison for 30 years for the murder of Maurice Bishop in the Grenade Revolution. He says he didn't do it. I don't know. Who knows? But long before his controversy in Grenada, Bernard Cord was a student, politics student, PhD student, doctoral student in London in the 60s and late 60s. And he is working in the school for educationally subnormal. Educationally subnormal was like special needs back in the day. They'd give you an IQ test. All the kids would get an IQ test. And on that IQ test, if you did too badly, you said educationally subnormal. Now, what we know about IQ tests, terribly racist, right? An IQ test is not a test of your intelligence. It's a test on how much exposure you had to Western education, right? And you've got kids like, my dad came over from Jamaica in 1960, 14 years old, had 2 years of schooling. How do you think you're going to do an IQ test? It's not that great, right? Because it's not, yeah. Look at the language they were using. Caribbean kids in particular did badly in these tests because they spoke Patois. Patois wasn't seen to be a real language. So, well, Asian kids, Eastern European kids are getting second language instruction, treatment, help. Caribbean kids, like, you can't understand the test, you're stupid. You're dumb, right? You're not speaking proper language. So we're not going to help you. You're going to be deemed educationally subnormal. So in some parts of Harambee, in London, 70% of African Caribbean boys will be deemed to be educationally subnormal. Proper, like, they essentially kicked into these special needs, special education schools, and just left to rot, basically, right? And so this is a massive problem. And so Bernard Cord's in a party, he's just chilling, and he starts talking to somebody who's a parent and tells his parent what he does, and they lock off the whole party, gets locked off. All the parents come sit around, they're like, what's going on? Tell us about the school, tell us about this. And they basically make him go and do research. He ain't no educational researcher. This ain't really his thing. He's just in the school making money. But they make him do it. They make him do the research. And then he does the research, and then New Beacon Books, oldest black bookshop in Britain, they go and they publish it. So they publish How the West Indian Child. And it becomes a massive book, right? And that book then also sparks people. They're like, what's going on? What's happening in the schools? How are we letting this happen? You get mobilization, anti-racism campaigns, anti-stuff in schools, which actually leads to there being changes to education is so normal. But really, this book, this Black Studies, is a massive part of that, right? Huge part of that. And actually, this book has not been published by a mainstream publisher since. Still not. I thought it had been, but it's still not now. Right? Overlooked. That's Black Studies. That's the community component, embedded in community, part of community. The whole point of it is to make things better. That's Black Studies. That's what we're trying to do, right? That's the work we're trying to get to. And this book is the best example of that. We also had Saturday schools, what we call Saturday schools, supplementary schools. Because the schools were so bad, we understood that we had to do for self. Right? We understood that we had to do for self, that we couldn't rely on Babylon to teach the kids. So this starts off people's front rooms to say, look, bring the kids in, we'll teach them some stuff, teach Black history, teach maths, English, etc. Organizations, African Caribbean Self-Help Organization, just volunteers, young people volunteering. Let's start Saturday school. Started Saturday school in 1967, ran till 2010. All right, I actually did a book, Resisting Racism, where I went and taught in that Saturday school. Long tradition of saying, how do we educate ourselves? How do we educate our people? Marcus Garvey Nursery, where we have the old site of the Marcus Garvey Nursery, where we have the library headquarters of Harambee OBU. We started our own nursery. Like, look, you can't rely. Do for self. That's Black power. Things don't work, we do for self. That's Black Studies. Things don't work, we do for self. We will organize, arrange, do the things that need to be done because you can't rely on the people to do the things, right? That's the Black Studies movement, right? Outside university. Committed, connected, engaged, political, right? That's what we're really trying to push for when we talk about something like Black Studies, Black education for liberation. And one of the principles, which is really important for Black studies, is, and it sounds kind of straightforward if you're not an academic, right? This is Patricia Hill Collins' Black feminist thought. It talks about the ethic of personal accountability, right? Really important. Like, you have to, people won't believe you. You can't do community engaged work if people don't believe that you believe that your heart's in it, that you're in it, right? You're part of it. And that sounds straightforward to most normal, well-meaning people. But for academics, you will be surprised how many times I've been to an event, academic event, and someone said, "Oh wow, I'm surprised you're so passionate, a speaker." Well, why would I not be passionate? What would I be doing that I wouldn't be passionate? And then I go listen to them speak. I'm like, oh yeah, dry. You're supposed to be dead, talk like a dead man when you're an academic. Nah, it's mad, man. Honestly, those things are like, so much of what academia is the separation. Like, you're not supposed to be part of it. You're not supposed to engage it. You're supposed to be separate from it. Dispassionate nonsense. That's not what we're doing. Right? For Black studies, it's very much about being in it, being part of it. And you have the ethic of personal accountability. That's what it's about, right? Do people trust you? You're in it with them? Can they see you in it with them? And if they don't, they're not going to trust you. They're not going to be with you. All right? It's a massive part of that. And not just like for, oh, I need to do my research and get my data. Actually, it's about how we do, what's the point of the thing that we're doing in the first place? You get see what I'm saying now? Really, 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 really important principle, which we do pick up in Crisis of the Negro Intellectual and other parts of the 6-week course as well. All right, so as I was saying, we do have this 6-week course. You do have to pay for the 6-week course. Freedom isn't free. And also, you got to value the things, right? If you want to have things, we try to keep the cost down as much as possible. At the end of the day, like, we want to do things, you got to do things, right? All the money goes to Harambee Organization of Black Unity. March the 6th will be about Blackness. March the 20th, we're going to have a break because can't do the 13th. Crisis of the Negro Intellectual. March 20th, Black is a Country. April 3rd, Blackness Intersection. April 10th, Reclaiming History. And April 17th is Freedom Dreams. All right, so I'm going to go through each one and just give you a little taster of what kind of things we're going to talk about. So, Blackness, obviously, Black studies, you hear me, is black. And I think it's obvious, but everybody don't. So, what is Blackness? Why is Blackness so important? What is the politics of it? And I drop you a quote here from the Honorable Marcus Garvey. Black skin is not a symbol of shame, but rather a glorious symbol of greatness. Actually, the black skin is not a badge of shame, but rather a glorious symbol of greatness. And this is important, right? Thinking about Blackness, right? Not race. This is what we're talking about getting the big, like, you've been told that Blackness and race are the same thing. They are not the same thing. They are two totally distinct things, right? Blackness is our thing. That is us coming together to say that the way that we look is a marker of us. It's meaningful. I didn't just come out with black, kinky hair, etc. I didn't come out with like that. That's not just an accident in history. That's telling me something about myself. That's telling me something about my connection and my responsibility to other Black people. It's the most radical concept you can have, Blackness, because it connects us to the diaspora and to the continent. It connects us together and says, look, this is who we are. This is where we are. As Malcolm would say, we're in the same boat, right? Catch the same hell, and we're going to the same place, right? So we got to work together. And that's that radical conception of unity, right? If we do Blackness properly, we change the world. But to do Blackness properly is to be revolutionary. No way, no shape about it. That's what it is. So I ain't gonna give you too much now. I'll give you that. But that will be week 1 of the course. Also, week 2, I mentioned this before, Crisis of the Negro Intellectual. That's the name of a book by Harold Cruz, so I cannot take credit for that. Crisis of the Negro Intellectual. I've got a quote here from Patricia Hill Collins. He says, I honed the craft of translating the powerful ideas of my college education so that I might share them with my elementary students, their families, my fellow teachers, and community members, right? Now, again, that sounds kind of straightforward. You go and talk to people in the community. But I said this in the Malcolm book. There's bare academics out there who talk like they got a brain injury, right? Talk like they can't communicate with normal people. Like, honestly, what academia does to us, it trains us to think in a way that's so convoluted that ain't nobody understand. It's so convoluted that nobody can understand what you are saying. And it's maddening, right? I'm reading things going, what does this mean? Right? One of the best compliments I had about my last book, and I noticed I've become very good at dropping in promotions in my books with these talks. But Psychosis of Whiteness, my stepmother, she said, "This is the first book of yours I can read." I was like, wow, I thought I was always like trying, but that's just it's the first book I can read. I was like, wow, it took 4 books in, it's the first book you can read. You don't even know what's happening, but it's happening. Malcolm always said, make it plain, right? Make it plain. Some of us can't make it plain. Can't make it plain. We're so disconnected, disjointed, chopped off from community because what academia does is it takes us away from community. I didn't become professor. Professor's like top of the academic tree in many ways, academically at least, not managerially. I didn't get there by doing community. I got there by doing the white stuff. Right? Academic journals, academic conferences, academic this, academic that. Academic just basically means white. Let's just be real. Right? That's what it is. So that creates this massive crisis where we got more of us in academia now. But is anything getting better? Nah, it's getting worse, right? If Malcolm was alive today, Malcolm would more than likely be an academic, right? He is the massively intelligent, would have eventually gone to university, etc., be a professor, but he wouldn't be Malcolm X. He'd be Malcolm something else. Malcolm Y. I don't know. But not Malcolm X. Malcolm Y, no. I don't know. But it wouldn't have been the same. It wouldn't have been connected. That's the crisis, right? We're stuck. We're trapped. Right? Honestly, we're stuck. We're trapped. We're not in it, right? So, and sometimes we think the gains are not really the gains. So, because there's so few of us in academia, about 160 black professors out of 20,000 in the UK, which is actually for Europe pretty good, right? Enough, 0.7% of professors. We think we've done something. We think we made it somewhere where we get some more. We need to get in. We need to get in. Why? Nah, man, that's a drag. I tell you, that's not what we need. We need to solve the problem of this crisis before we start to add more and more to the rank, right? Yeah, I honestly do. I tell people all the time. I say this all the time. Nobody believes me. But I generally, if I could go back 10 years, I would not be an academic. I would have left and done community, done Make It Plain, done documentaries, done podcast, done other things. Because you just need better, right? There's such a industrial problem with the way that this thing works, honestly. Then we're going to do, next week we're going to do Black is a Country. Black is a Country, my second favorite talk I've ever given. And what I gave it in Harriet Tubman, when we had Harriet Tubman Bookshop years ago, I would say 2015, 2016. And I started off, this Zimbabwean guy comes, sits at the front, he's like, why? Black is a country, that's racist. Da-da-da-da. I told the brother, hold on. By the end of the talk, he's interrupting me, tell me that yes, black is a country. Because it is. My son tells me all the time, black's not a country. The biggest challenge we have in the way that we do things is that we think nation states are real things. And I don't just mean Britain, which is clearly not a nation state, never has been. I'm talking about Jamaica. I'm talking about, Jamaica. People have ran me on because I said Jamaica's prison colony. Jamaica's a prison colony, right? But so is Nigeria. So is Zimbabwe. So is America. All these nations are made up, right? Go back to Blackness. Blackness is what makes Blackness radical is it connects us all together, links us all together. What divides us? These made up countries. We didn't make these countries up. African continent is just made up countries by Europeans. Jamaica, you were taken in chains to put on the island, told that's your country, told out of 21 people. And you believe the hype. America, you want to be part of America? You want to be foundational black America? Get that. Malcolm rolling in his grave. Malcolm's cussing everybody. Yeah. So black is a country. Talk about all of this. All of that problem with the nation state. What does that mean? Say black is a country. How is that a radical basis, etc., etc. Politics. See, the politics strand comes through quite heavily in this one. And then we'll do Blackness at the Intersection. We actually did a book with Professor Kimberly Crenshaw about 15, I want to say 15, 20. About we had these workshops, 2-3 day workshops with a good number of people talking through intersectionality. What does that mean? Kimberly Crenshaw says intersectionality is contingent on viewing the world through specific contexts. Black women occupy particular locations within political economy, oppressed by both race and gender. Because, as I was saying before, those books back in the day, ain't no women in there, ain't no gender, no sexuality, and nothing. Just like, we have to do this. We have to understand and talk through the intersection. Now, my late wife, Dr. Kehinde Andrews, talked about, when we talk about intersectionality and intersection, actually blackness is the roundabout in the middle. And gender, sexuality, everything runs through the roundabout, right? Runs through that roundabout. And that's how we conceptualize it in the book. And it's a really powerful way of thinking about it. But we have to pay attention to there's multiple forms of discrimination, right? And we haven't done that too well in the past. Again, it's happening better now with black feminism within universities, and not just within universities, but outside of that, with black women becoming more prominent. But there's loads of black women to cite now. Like back in the day, it was very difficult to cite black women in those, like I said, those 60s, 70s, but it's very difficult to cite black people, full stop, right? But definitely very, very difficult to cite black women. Now it's easier to cite black women. You can cite so many black women, I can get in trouble for cussing some black women because it's nonsense, right? Like there's a lot of them. So it's definitely got better, but we need to do more, right? Black queer theory, black disability studies, like there's so much more we can do, because you think about blackness. As I said before, blackness is the radical concept. It's a concept, it's radical because it brings us all together. Now, as soon as you start to put divisions in there, where the women got to do this, can't have the gay, the whole thing collapses. Because it's about unity because of what this color represents. It represents our connection to each other. When you start to put barriers into that connection, then the whole thing done. Starts being radical, becomes something else, right? So we will talk about intersectionality. History is really important. As I said, history is one of the strands of black studies more generally, strand of the course for definite. Quote from Malcolm here: in hating Africa and hating Africans, we ended up hating ourselves without even realizing it. Because you can't hate the roots of the tree. You can't hate your origin and not end up hating yourself. You can't hate Africa and not hate yourself. And think about what the West has done to us, and not just in the diaspora for definite, the formerly enslaved. We were taught to hate Africa. Just this the language, get rid of the language, get rid of the culture, get rid of the religion, get rid of everything. Take you away, change your name, change everything, break you in, whitewash you from your head to your toe. That's what they did through slavery. You will hate Africa. But they always did the Africans too. Forget your religion, forget your language. You're the jungle, you didn't produce nothing, you got no, we're going to teach you how to do everything. It's the same thing. Right? You've been taught to hate African, and you hate Africa, you hate yourself. This is why when you go to these white, we do these unis, and you're just reading dead white men, you start to hate yourself. You believe you're being told you can't think. So they tell you, nigga, you can't think. That's what they're doing, telling you can't think. Straight up. So that's why the history is really important, right? Understanding history, putting those layers back in, understanding that we built civilization. That runs through us, right? Understanding all of the resistance, the rebellions, mobilizations, contribution to civilization, the contribution to history. I mean, black history is just history, right? It's just history more generally. You can't have any of this stuff without us. So we'll talk through some of that, talk about the importance of it. Psychologically important, but just generally important, like just really important to understand ourselves, right? And where do we go? How do we move? How do we move in the world? So yeah, reclaiming our history is a big strand in black studies more generally, and we will talk about it on the course. And the last one we'll do is freedom dreams. So I'm actually setting you up for, there's other modules that so actually one of the modules I taught this just now for the last time is black political activism. And that's a really important module because it's about what are the different political ideas, political ideologies, right? We have disagreed with each other more than we've disagreed with white people. Violently disagree. We don't all want the same things. One of them, my absolute pet hates in terminology is the idea of a black radical tradition. As though, is this a tradition that everybody's part of? Or the black freedom movement? Let's call it black freedom movement. So everybody's part of this march towards something and say, no. We had very, very different ideas about where we were headed. You know, there's the Martin Luther King, Malcolm X thing has been misunderstood, but it's actually being more misunderstood now because now we're being told to believe they wanted the same thing. They didn't want the same thing. Malcolm wanted revolution, Martin wanted reform. Those are not the same thing. Those are two completely distinct things. In fact, totally different, like oil and water. Can't mix those two things together, which is why Malcolm would consistently call him an Uncle Tom. Because he massively disagreed, right? That's fine. You just gotta pick where you think you are. So what does freedom look like? What are some of these political differences, ideas? Asata Shakur said, "It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win." And that's it, right? That's the point of this. The point of Black Studies. Where are we going? How do we get there? What's the point? What's the goal? What is Black liberation, right? So, and all of these weeks are really setting you up, because I do want to, in the future, we do want to run some more content, more courses. What is activism? Black feminism. Let's go through and do the full thing. And what Intro to Black Studies does is sets you up to do those things, right? Sets you up for stuff. Sets you up to do those things. Sets you up for stuff. So, the reminder then, that is the 6-week course. It starts Thursday, March 6th. It will be in person. It'll be on Zoom. Remember, you'll get all the stuff sent to you. Discount for members, so please do join. All the details, blackunity.org.uk/Black Studies. You can join from anywhere in the world if you want to join in. Join in locally. This is very much a pilot test. See what it is. So far, the pilot test didn't go well with the technology, but we learn and we move. So we know for March. We know for March the 6th what we need to do. So yeah, that's the idea, really. Just give you some stuff, give you some ideas, give you some breakdown of things. Take, and then you can break it down, take it, use it for whatever work, activism, etc. But really, we are trying to support the organization. So I do hope you are able to join us. Do hope you do sign up. Do hope you do sign in. 3 weeks, March the 6th. I will be online. Talking to anybody who wants to do this. So let's see where it goes. If Black Studies is important, if Black intellectual thought is important, then you have to invest and you have to be part of it. So please do join the conversation. Please do come along. And please do get involved. And thank you for listening. And again, apologies that we had to redo this and couldn't be in the live stream, but hopefully this gave you a good overview account of what you can expect. You'll get more stuff in the actual course, reading lists, slides, etc. But go on to blackunity.org.uk/Black Studies for all information, how to sign up, how to join in, how to get involved. Join the movement for Black Studies. Thank you.